Welcome everyone to Inside Talent, special edition powered by Match 2. I'm Craig Fisher. I have as my co-hosts today both Elaine Orler and Doug Berg, and we are happy to welcome our good friend Madeline Laurano as our special guest today. Madeline, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Craig. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I told you an email. I'm like, this is like my three favorite people, and I get to talk to you all on a Friday. It's perfect.
And I choose to believe you. Elaine, what's happening with you?
All is good, trying to stay warm. I guess we're going to have another cold weekend, but I know it's relative, but Fort Worth is not prepared for below freezing. So this whole drip your pipes thing has been a whole new adventure for us.
What a funny thing.
Open the doors, drip the pipes.
Yep.
Cover the faucets outside, unhook the hoses. It's chaos. Meanwhile, Doug's up in Minneapolis going, that's just another Tuesday.
Yeah, I had to sharpen my ice scraper.
Yeah, I had to chop out some ruts for my wife to back out of the garage. And I've got all the tools, so I was no problem. But for 2 days before that, I was driving her to yoga and to get her B12 shot and to the grocery store.
That's great.
Right. So the magical winter wonderland of DFW. Amazing. All right. So, Doug, you've got some exciting news. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yes, I'm officially grandpa. No old jokes at the conferences, by the way, guys. Like, I know a lot of us are already here, but I became a grandpa this week to two fraternal twins, a boy and a girl, with my oldest daughter, Maddie. So I'm back to changing diapers again, which is, we have a young startup team. I'm not changing their diapers. Which is good, but, this is okay. So I'm looking forward to, I heard the neatest quote from an elder friend of mine. He said, look, the kids were the light of my life and my grandkids are the delight of my life. And I thought that was I'm taking that to heart.
That's great.
I like it.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm 5 weeks behind Doug. So first grandma baby coming in March.
Yeah.
So I'll be following his lead.
Yeah.
Diaper. I don't think I remember how to change diapers. Does it all come back to you? I don't know.
That's the attitude right there.
Yeah.
Be thankful.
Yeah.
No idea. I'm knocking on wood that I'm not close yet, but you never know. All right. So Madeline is the founder of Aptitude Research. You and I have been friends since probably you were at Aberdeen back in 11, 12, 13, something like that.
A long time ago. It feels like yesterday, but it's not.
Right. It does feel like yesterday, and it's funny. I've had this conversation a lot. Back in those days, our hottest topic was, is social media good for recruiting?
Or mobile,
Or mobile,
go mobile.
That's right. Yeah.
Should we go mobile? That was a good time.
And hyper local, right? Geo and all that. And now it's a little darker than that, right? I mean, we've got the blessing and benefit of AI, but we've also got some danger, Will Robinson. Eightfold is in a little bit of hot water right now. Not getting good press about the Fair Credit Reporting Act. How did we get to the place where AI is being treated the same as the Fair Credit Reporting Act?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And we saw, obviously the Workday Mobley case that was the big topic. Now going on almost 2 years, I think.
Right.
And now to see this case and this lawsuit against Eightfold, it can be scary as an employer to think about what are we using, but it also can be very scary for HR tech providers that do take a very responsible approach to AI and can be subject to some of these lawsuits that are not always grounded in what's right or wrong.
Right. And yeah, I don't know that it's frivolous. I think it's creative. I think whoever came up with that has kind of got some genius going on. Not that I condone, all the lawsuits, but there's something to that, and it puts vendors in the position of being treated as employment agencies, right? Which they're not, but you could say that as part of the process, they are an agency aiding in employment. And it's not hard to look through companies' accounting records and find the vendor attached, right? And
and they can do that, and that's and I think it opens the door for other lawsuits. I mean, for a long time, the EEOC would say that the responsibility falls on the employer, and that's regardless of what technology they're using or who they're buying, the responsibility is going to fall on the employer, and that's a lot of pressure on employers when they're spending, especially during the pandemic when they're buying pretty much everything.
Right.
Now, this is a big shift now in the market to say, okay, no, the responsibility is also falling on the vendors as well.
So we had the audits, right, starting a couple of years ago, and that was a vendor side thing, and you could get an audit to, attempt to prove that you're not introducing bias into the process with AI. But the audit questions were vague at best, and the audit gave you three, I don't want to call them licenses, but verifications that you could give to employers. I think we've moved way beyond that, right? But the audit hasn't changed much. So, what's surprising to you about how we're, starting to view AI in courts and, and these local municipalities even?
Yeah, I mean, it's been surprising, just given kind of what and where we were at a few years ago. I think it's all been surprising, and I think it's open. I think even with Workday, we saw this kind of open the possibility for other vendors to be subject to sort of the same lawsuits. And the audits are interesting to me because there was sort of like this one audit, and there were a few vendors that had kind of gone through an audit. And now, I mean, even when we do our big index reports, everyone's had a third-party audit. They're all different auditing companies. Some are a little more credible than others, but they all, if you go to any of these vendors' websites, they've all gone through, for the most part, a third-party audit in some way. And, I think it also brings up, what will employers think of these audits moving forward?
Doug, I know you've got hot sports opinions on this. Is AI nonsense in the first place?
I have two big thoughts on this, right? I mean, the unfortunate reality is that AI is turning up the problem on both sides, right? I mean, candidates are avalanching employers with this problem, right? We have one of our Match 2 users that got 440,000 applications last year from 30,000 unique candidates. That means every candidate is sending in over 10 applications because AI is doing this, right? We used to, you guys remember the old adage, there's more hay on the needle. Well, now the problem is there's more fake needles on real needles. So the metaphor has changed, making it even harder to understand. And so I think employers have then counter deployed AI to try to take on the AI that created the problem that AI created to solve the AI problem. And the big problem I see is it's a problem of who, when, and how that we're going to be using the AI in this fashion. In other words, who's using AI to make scores, determine who's a match, and determine who's a fit? When are they doing it, pre-apply or post-apply? And then how are they doing it, right? Is the employer's configuration of the platform what's making the decisions, or did the platform make the decisions about how to resort and score things? And so I think if you step back and you say, well, wait a minute, is there a completely different way to think about how we could put the formula in a different way that would say, let's allow the candidate to decide how they match with a job and put them through a process. Let's let them do that before they apply. And let's let them participate in the how they go about pre-verifying and pre-qualifying themselves. And when you take a little bit of a different thought process to it and offer an outside-in method instead of a post-to-play, in other words, put the candidate in the loop, don't keep them in the dark. And I think that's the spirit of why the lawsuits are getting so much velocity right now and attention right now, is because employers are still in the how do I screen people out instead of invest in technology that lets them help them screen themselves in. So all of the DEI talk and the inclusivity and the transparency has been great themes, but when do I offer experiential inclusivity and experiential transparency right as a part of using my hiring platforms? And I don't think until now are we starting to see that start to show up inside of the applications.
So, Doug, I've heard you say before that Match 2 gives a candidate their own ATS experience that they can control, and they kind of control their destiny and what they are vouching for being expert at or even knowledgeable of. And this kind of gets back to the golden key thing that we thought we were going to be into a few years ago when we were saying everybody can lock up their own data, but putting the candidate in control is kind of central. What I've seen, and Madeline, you can back me up on this, there are some vendors where you can turn off, as the employer, you can turn off AI matching, but Doug, no one has to turn off AI matching on your platform.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think Elaine and I are thinking really differently about how to factor the candidate into the process, right? Employers have integrated everything on their back end, but the single biggest person or party stakeholder that needed to get integrated was the candidate. They start from scratch on every career site. There's no universality other than their Word document that they upload over and over again. But there has never, the workflow experience for every employer has been unique and siloed to their platform. And so we thought, well, what if we made that different and allowed the candidate to design their own journey? Mm-hmm. Let them have a universal profile. Let them have, it's not unlike how you use Google Translate in your browser, right? Like I can put a Chrome extension in and allow me to translate pages or prices or any of that stuff. And so I've always thought a little differently. And we thought, well, what if we gave the candidate a universal profile that could deliver instant personalization? And if companies wanted to enable the ability to interact with this, you could instantly greet candidates. You could instantly personalize their experience. You could instantly match them to jobs. You could allow for a new and interactive apply, but not just do that on the first visit, but let's connect. Because I was the founder of this talent community concept where we would have candidates opt in and put in their email and I could job alert you to death over time. It unfortunately worked good. But what about really connecting the candidate so they own their records and have a data relationship that reaches into the CRM and into the ATS, which adds a third dimension, a third rail to the entire recruiting process. So think about how much more informational efficiency there is. It solves the ghosting problem. It solves the candidate fraud and fake apply problem. It solves 90% of my candidates come look and leave because it's apply or goodbye. So it all of a sudden, by allowing the candidate to be a participant on my platform instead of just a captured record at a moment in time, it really truly takes the Craigslist concept of how recruiting's been stuck in transitional mode forever and makes it a Facebook marketplace. It brings network effect between the two parties. And what's really neat about this, like we talked to a healthcare company and they're like, yeah, we have 100 recruiters that use our platform on the recruiting side. We have 1 million candidates a month and not one of them technically is a user. So literally every month we're flushing down the toilet all of these relationships that are not connected. In other words, I could become my own monster, become my own LinkedIn, and we've just never let it happen before in the market. And so when we're showing up with a very different and unique twist here, which can really, we think, fundamentally connect and create an interconnected data relationship between the platforms. And I don't, frankly, I'll stop on one thing, but I don't know how you do all of this agentic automation stuff if you don't have outside in signals from the candidates. mean, you can have a great agent that says, oh, this candidate's qualified, let's move an interview. Oh, he interviewed great, let's move him to second interview. But if in the middle of that, the candidate opts out and says, sorry, I'm gone, well, boom, it breaks it, right? And so, we're going to stay stuck with campaigning people to death, begging them to update us, let us know if you're on the market or not. When the candidate can self-advocate, self-update, self-publish, self-signal, I mean, it just does a really big magic thing to the entire, which would unleash a much more. You've talked, Madeline, about a consumer experience in the talent ecosystem, and I think until we actually let the candidates have a participant role inside of their data, their records, their interactions with all the systems, you can't get to that.
So that kind of brings me to, yes, the explosion of applicants. And everybody's battling this right now. So Doug, fraud and bots and signal decay. Let's talk about
let Elaine talk. We've been working a lot on this kind of fraud.
Yes, Elaine.
And so Elaine and I think we've cooked up a brilliant thing, but Elaine can chat about, because candidates not only can have their own application and experience, they can also validate themselves. So explode on that one, Elaine.
Okay. Yes. And then I'm going to let Madeline talk after that. So, because I would love her thoughts on this too, but we're really focused on, because the candidate has this perpetual profile that they can use, we can now do authentication with that profile. So the candidates will have an opportunity to validate their identification, validate their certifications. So we think about the truth serum to TA leaders, which are inundated with fake applicants today, or even just not enough signals to know if they're legitimate, or even enough to know if they're not nefarious and doing some kind of casting of a fake profile. So we're able to start to think about really expanding that experience for the candidate to be able to show authentication and truth, and then for the organizations to feel more confident in the relationship that they're building with those candidates. And that's a big mission on my part to build those capabilities quickly, because I think with the market today and the volume and the spend and the frustration that's happening, it's something that we need desperately.
All right, Madeline, are volumes even a meaningful signal anymore?
Yeah, I think so many companies are struggling with this. Candidate fraud's a huge issue for organizations. And there's like everyone's talking about the little f and the big F, and, people rolling their eyes about, okay, a couple bots or candidates applying for a job. Is this the worst thing? But there's this huge, big F on the other side of it that exposes companies in a major way. And it's incredibly risky. And it puts TA leaders and professionals in a very difficult situation when you're dealing with the potential of what, this fraud can do, and especially when you're dealing with this number of applicants. So I love the idea of validating these profiles for companies, and they don't have to do it themselves or feel like there's not a way for them to manage this type of volume. But I think this is a huge topic. And, Craig, too, we've even talked about what's that big topic that TA leaders don't really want to talk about or feel like it's the thing keeping them up at night. That isn't maybe the most comfortable conversation. And I think this is a big one.
Yeah, I think it is a big one. And I think, I see this a lot. ATS gets installed. It takes a year and a half. By then, the person who bought it left or moved on, right? And company ABC is left with, out of the box, nothing turned on, no governance, and big issues, right? And so how much of the candidate quality problem is literally data integrity, do you think?
It's a huge problem. And I think, there's all these different systems and they collect data in very different ways. There's not, integration still the biggest challenge that we're seeing with all these systems. And yeah, there's a major issue with data integrity. And there's been discussions around orchestrating these systems and thinking about bringing people analytics into talent acquisition. But I think for a lot of these companies, it's been this shift in they wanted volume for so long. And now that the volume is overwhelming, it's like the systems were designed to get more volume, not to manage volume as a challenge, which is what it is now.
It is now, very much. And I think companies are accidentally encouraging it still. And right, when we talk to leaders, they say, well, we don't have an applicant problem. We get plenty of applications.
Well,
We
I
have a
think
quality problem.
Yeah, one of the components to that too, though, is we allow everybody through the same door as many times as they want to.
Yes.
So there's no barrier to entry on the so you can apply to any job, go through the steps. You may or may not meet the minimum quals. I think we've done this in some industries where it's like you don't meet them, we can stop you at that point. But the redirection or the migration of putting a candidate against the best job that will give the recruiter the best opportunity with that profile is still some areas that we need to shift our thinking from the volume of let me get 1,000 applicants to my rec before I pull it down to how do I get the best 50 applicants to my rec to focus my energy. Yeah. And that's a shift that we need to see happen in the market.
And I think people want that. I mean, even in our research, when we look at like what priorities are for the next year, it's quality of hire. And, it's a nebulous thing, but it's Elaine, it's what you're talking about. It's how do we get the best hires and do that, in a way that's efficient and makes sense. But there is a focus on quality right now.
I wonder if there's a new metrics, which is quality of applicant. Yeah, because so I think so many times, and you and I have been around this conversation for plenty of years, but quality of hire is so difficult to measure on the full end-to-end scale on what the definition means to the organization. But if we can get what is the caliber of a quality of applicant to the pool against the rec, I think without this black box scoring mechanism, or at least transparency to the candidates that they have the right, that they know that they put their best self forward, I think it's going to be is the shift that is going to have to happen.
Yeah, and it's something you can measure.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that I think this easy apply thing has been gotten kicked in the knee a little bit, because if it make it too easy for everyone to apply to anything, you're going to get a lot of noise. But I don't think it's just the first time a candidate comes to a career site, because I was helping my son-in-law find a job last year. We applied on a Workday site, and once you create a single account on a company site, it invites you and encourages you to use the same Workday account to then go on and apply for a whole bunch of different jobs. And there was no discovery or pre-qualify to apply to these. It was just random. And, I could apply for a janitor job, the CEO job, whatever I wanted with click, 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 click. So while they're trying to solve some of the make it a little bit easier stuff, they're still missing really critical things about, like Elaine said, which jobs are you really relevant for? And then let's just take a minute to look at your match score for this and let you go through this process of explaining how and why you're really a good fit there. And by the way, if you do it on us, it'll link back to your profile so that if even you go to the next company site, you're not going to have to redo all this work. It will travel with you. So you have to kind of give the candidates cross-platform and cross-client efficiency to encourage them to have very specific job and very specific apply intelligence that then makes the quality signal even come through the pipe so that a recruiter can understand it. We have a lot of clients that look through a lot of the applicants that come maybe from outside job boards and whatever, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if they're a match. They're all a snowflake. But the ones that actually went through the matching process and went through that, here's why I'm a good fit for, I know they were real people that took a real minute to self-evaluate. And so my believability of them being someone that I would want to engage with is really, really important.
And they're serious about wanting a job if they took the time to do that.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So we've installed matching in, like I told you, the company that had every candidate basically applying for 12 jobs. And after we put matching in, we were able to diagnose like how many people that had a 50% or lower score went on to apply. In other words, when you tell the candidate you weren't kind of a good match for this job and you explain that to them, guess what percentage of candidates didn't go forward and apply? We had about 300 people that did matching for nursing jobs, and only 10 people. So 4% of people, when you actually show them they're not a good fit, actually applied, right? But for the 652 that were 75% or better matches, 30% of those people, or 180, went forward and continued to apply. And they only applied to 2 jobs at the very most. So it was like 1.25 jobs. So when you can add that in, it really dramatically impacts the routing and coin sorting of candidates and their experience and their expectation, as well as what actually comes through and lands on the recruiter's desk, which is exactly the kind of thing I think the industry is looking for. So
I think the industry is looking for simplicity, right? I mean, I think we've got, most of the employers I talk to are overwhelmed with tech stack fatigue, right? And you give me something lightweight, like a Match 2, where I just add a little bit of code to my career site. That's great. I mean, I can see a talent leader saying, "Well, that's easy. I don't need to even get involved in that. Somebody else can do that here, no problem." Right? And it's not adding a thick layer of another year-long implementation of a CRM or anything like that. But I don't know, Madeline, you talk to a lot of employers to do this research. What are you kind of seeing in that arena?
Yeah, I think this idea of like we have to do more with less is like a big theme. And then also, the tech stack fatigue, or I think it's the aftermath of the pandemic and what happened there, and companies, there's always been an issue with certain parts of technology, or companies feeling like they bought too many things that do the same thing. But the pandemic, the behavior was to buy more and more, and budgets were increased. There were more recruiters on these teams than we're seeing now, and they had a lot of solutions that did not integrate and maybe didn't do what they promised they would do. And I think we're still looking and dealing with that aftermath. And then it's an issue of having to go to your CFO or someone internally and say, we don't want to use this anymore. It worked then, or this was a decision we made then. It's no longer the right decision. And I think TA is not comfortable having those conversations. A lot of leaders, I think, don't want to kind of have that internal conversation of this is now wasted spend. And we need to either reduce the number of solutions we're using or be smarter about what we're buying and what we're using. But these implementation timeframes of 18 months. I mean, Elaine, you know this better than I do. I mean, 18 months, 2 years now for a price tag that's $1 point whatever million is, and then a consulting firm to implement it for you at $1 point whatever million is overwhelming. And then have to go back in 2 years and say, oops, shouldn't have bought that is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, well, I think it's been both of our careers in the past, which is you do the analysis on it and the reporting, and I would have to go in and fix the systems on the flip side. But I think you're so right on the dollar amounts, the cost equations now, just to replace or extend or expand is huge, and it is a risk. It's a risk decision. And I remember, I'd like to go back to the days where you could experiment more, or where there are more tools like what we're building today, which there's a trial component. It's not disrupting the full tech stack, but it's adding a huge percentage amount of value. But it ties back to this conversation you and I have all the time as well, integrations. Oh my gosh, right? This whole concept of, can I move data through each of these different systems? And I'm curious to know, even from your research lately, is it getting any better out there? No, just no.
Nope. It's still like number one challenge. It's like the tale as old as time, and it's this integration challenge, and it's difficult. And you've got providers out there promising this orchestration across systems, and that's another cost and another maybe, but integration is huge, and you often don't know until you've purchased something what you're going to encounter in trying to integrate these systems together. So I think it's still a complete mess out there. So, and we're seeing a lot of acquisitions we saw in the past year that disrupts a lot of the integrations as well.
Right.
The biggest companies in the world are trying to do this and not getting it right.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Yeah. Go ahead, Elaine. Sorry.
I was just going to say with the tech stack too, and this has been for as long as I can remember my career, and you and I've built tech stack diagrams for years, compared them even when our earliest ATS reports a dozen years ago.
But we're working on one now. I need to send you, by the way, so that it's coming after this call.
Oh, that's right. You have a new one coming. I'm excited for that. But with each solution actually expands its footprint into another solution's roadmap. So now we've got this overlap. Do you think that is one of the limitators to integration? Because why do I want to integrate there if I have the tool to provide as well?
Absolutely. And I think what's happening now is, especially if you're using like a large ATS provider, the large, ERP, HRMS providers, they're already promising either in the roadmap or what they have that they can do this anyway. So they're not often the easiest companies to integrate with or to partner with for a lot of other providers if they're saying they already do this. And they usually do not do it. It might be on a roadmap somewhere, but
or it's a very light version or
a very light version,
unconnected version of what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah. I mean, even on like the ATS CRM, I mean, these are, if you think about just the core basic systems that TA is buying, I mean, there's certainly an argument that not everyone needs a CRM or the traditional CRM. And Doug, you're the first CRM really in our industry. These are core systems to TA. We should know how to integrate these two systems together. This should be like the bread and butter, the simplest thing that we do. And it's still like the biggest challenge. Like, is this CRM going to be able to integrate with an ATS provider? And it comes up over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And right. The big solutions, you're right. Workday's candidate connector or whatever that is, light CRM.
Like the engagement.
It doesn't do any of the things you really need a CRM to do. And you have to run everything through a landing page in order to make it work right. So let's build 1,000 landing pages. Yeah. But this does come back to, with all the problems we're seeing with Indeed's model changing and with AI search results, the career site becomes important again, right? And a lot of people are telling Indeed no right now, big companies. And so where does that leave you? That leaves you with organic driven search, advertising driven search on other platforms. And it leads back to your career site. So Madeline, look, I don't want to speak for you. You tell me, is that a hot topic in your research? And if not, what is the hottest topic in your research?
We did a big report on it last year. I've never done a standalone report just on career sites. And we looked at a lot of companies and kind of did an audit on different career sites. And it's the old model of career sites, which are these bloated sites, which just have tons of videos and tons of employee testimonials. And then you get to like the job search page and you can't find, it's just a mess. It's like, oh, here's an admin and here's your CEO and they're both right next to each other. And like, I don't know what to do or how to manage this. I think the trend, and most companies aren't doing this yet to the extent they should, is less bloated sites, number one. Number two, flip the model. I mean, Doug and Elaine, this is what you're working on. Flip the model so it's not candidates have to come and navigate through for 20 minutes this mess of a site. It's actually how do we serve up the jobs to the candidates based on what they're interested in and what their profile or whatever they're going to upload would tell us about them. Put some intelligence in there, make it easier for candidates. And I think it's less of just more. Like, we know about social, corporate responsibility. That's important. We don't need like 20 videos from employees at the company talking about the culture. It's just too much.
Yeah, I think the core question candidates have isn't, do you need to hire someone like me today? because that's the only answer we can give candidates based upon my current active job openings, right? And if so,
Yep.
apply or goodbye is my core operating system. And so part of what we're doing with companies is like, let's put AI to work, not actual intelligence, I call it, and horizontal intelligence. Let's gather your jobs over time. And if a candidate shows up and says, hey, here's me, do you hire people like me ever? Like, we could answer that question for them and say, there's nothing today, but we've hired 16, or we've had 16 job openings in the last 60 days, and we'll likely have one in the next 30 days. Do you want us to let you know? So you're solving the discovery problem in a way more broad sense for the candidate. And then maybe what we can do is also understand and use AI to say, hey, yes, you're a good match for the job today, but do you want to see what your future with us would look like? So instead of just doing internal mobility for candidates, why wouldn't we also use intelligence to say, in 2 years, you'll likely get progressed to this, and in 4 years to that. And then so if you want to do a managerial plan, go that way. If you want to stay technical, go this way. So there's just gobs of really great things we could do to bring completely new experiences online for candidates as a part of how they dance with us in the candidate mode, so that we can really optimize an informational reason instead of just watching Tommy the video that was recorded 4 years ago and why he liked working there then kind of thing. So I just think as everyday internet users, our informational expectation is really going to get bigger, and I don't see a lot of the platforms thinking like this. Which is why we're trying to build what I'll call our drop-in or plug-in technology that can really leverage almost instantly a lot of things that can let you deliver these new experiences without switching platforms, right? It's like dropping a really intelligent update into your talent OS that isn't going to make you switch platforms and can make everything about your platforms and your stack actually work way, way better. So
yeah. Well,
Right.
100%. Like it would be hard as a candidate to get excited about a company or the potential of working at this company with all these videos and all this, exciting, flashy stuff they're showing, if you have absolutely no idea if they're truly hiring for that position, or if it's even available, or if they've had that position open for 2 years. Like I think candidates have experienced so much frustration that the excitement level of like, I'm very excited for this company. So they can't even get excited for all this investment in this career site unless they know, Doug, exactly what you're talking about, the very basics. Like how many of these positions have they hired for in the past year? How, what's the process right now? Is there a potential for future opportunities here? So I could be excited and stay engaged in the future.
Yeah. And look, I think we talked a lot about fraud and stuff like that. I would be remiss not to say fraud goes both ways, right? Go to any career site and you'll see a message that pops up that says, if you don't hear directly from us, it's not us. Like there is so much fraud that's happening on the boards and on the social networks aimed at the candidate. And so a big part of what Elaine and I are trying to do to build our direct talent network is let's let candidates work directly with the companies that they know and trust, right? I know Target, I know Best Buy, I know Wells Fargo, right? But the candidates have never had a chance to be able to say, here's my resume, I'm not ready to apply today, but gosh, if something were to come up for me, and let's let the candidates give their asset of their resume directly to the companies at the fingertips of the recruiters, and then maintain the data relationship with that over time. So the old formula, right? Qualified, interested, and available. The QIA factor is what everyone's after. But the problem is if you don't have a bidirectional system, you might be able to see if somebody was quality on the day they applied, but you don't know if they're interested now, and you certainly don't know if they're available. And so unless, again, you can solve for those parts of the DNA of what's going to really connect a great recruiter to a candidate that just got laid off but was a 96% match 3 months ago to the new gig, we're just going to keep on spamming each other and doing inefficient ways to try to figure out who's in the market and who's on Indeed and who's on LinkedIn. And again, we just see a completely different possibility for candidate to company relationship that can happen using social networking that goes across platforms. So,
right. Candidates think that's how it already works all over the place.
Well, but
let's just send our resume to a recruiter and they'll keep us in mind.
It requires employers to think a bit different too, Craig, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if I like that a candidate could reach into their record on my system and actually add new skills or say that they're in the market or that they're not in the market anymore. And I don't know if I want to share with them directly that we're thinking about moving them to interview or second interview. And so the minute you start allowing not just experiential data in, but situational data in, which again solves problems, but now the data protectionists are worried about when we move from what I call informational asymmetry, where the employer controls everything in the data relationship, to transformational reciprocal data exchange. That's a very game-changing concept, and it's going to be interesting for us to see how much resistance we get. We've actually been very happy with how TA leaders have been saying, nope, I'm ready. We need this. Like you said, Madeline, I don't have enough. I got to do a lot more with a lot less. And if I don't start allowing for some of this new wave of kind of integrated ecosystem activity to happen, I'm just not going to make. We're not going to make our numbers.
Yeah.
Well, I see this all the time, right? Right now, employers think that they need to close a job so that they can stop the flow of too many applicants. And that removes the job from the view of the applicant that's already applied and is in process of interviewing inside your system, especially inside Workday. So you go in as a candidate, Doug, like you said, with your relative, and try to go view that job that you've applied to, and it's gone. The view's not there anymore. And so this would fix all that, which I'm a big fan of. All right, Madeline, any hot tips that we can leave employers with, or TA leaders?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'd say, I mean, it's nothing new, is like for most TA leaders or professionals, they're feeling overwhelmed right now. And this whole theme of like do more with less, and not feeling like they know even the future of what many like of these teams have been reduced in size, headcount's an issue, to build a network, build a community outside of your own organization. And this is an amazing industry because people share their experiences, they network, there's a million communities out there to be part of. But I would definitely, if I were a TA professional right now and you're working probably double, triple what you were working 5 years ago, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like you're doing more with less, I would build a network and a support system outside of your own organization with peers working at other companies going through exactly what you're going through right now.
Yeah, and I've been a part of a lot of those organizations. And I think one of the things that is so great in just building those relationships, even if they're local or global, is you learn so much faster what things work and what things don't, versus having to, if someone else had an experience that didn't work, I'd like to know about that experience to potentially adjust the way I might do something. And also to really learn who's doing innovative things, because I think there's a need for innovation in talent acquisition again today. Even what we're focused on is a big shift in the way in which we think about doing things, and we can't keep doing it the way we were and expect better results. There has to be a shift. So.
That would be the definition of insanity right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, Madeline, thank you for being so candid and being so Madeline. And we always appreciate talking to you. Where can people find Aptitude Research and get a hold of Madeline Laurano?
Oh, well, yes. Thank you for asking. And thanks for having me on the show. So you can go to aptituderesearch.com. We are publishing a lot of reports, publishing several in the next month, and all the research is free. You can just download it. We're doing our major ATS, which Elaine and I have done in the past, and she'll be involved in this one. So this study will publish at the beginning of March, and that's a huge amount of time and investment, but it's 250 pages of pure ATS gold out there, and profiles of different vendors in the market. So that's the best way. I'm on LinkedIn and pretty easy to find.
Fantastic. All right, everyone. That's it for this special edition of Inside Talent powered by Match 2. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Inside Talent with Craig Fisher, special edition powered by Match2. Want to give your job candidates their own amazing ATS experience? Go to match2.com for more information. Please follow and like Inside Talent on your favorite podcast platform to stay up to date, and we'll see you next time.